So, cool. All right, well, we'll get into the books then for the week. Starting off with DCKO issue 4, Scott Snyder and Josh Williamson writing, with XERMANICO and Javier Fernandez on the art. Oh, Matt.
Yes, sir.
Matt. This event's kind of dog shit.
Yep, poop from a butt.
It's kind of dog shit. Everything we complained about last issue is now
tenfold.
It's tenfold true, yeah. But like, then you're adding in like an extra element here, which really annoys me. And we could have seen this coming. We maybe even postured it a little bit last time. But this idea that they're going up against the absolute versions of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, but it's not the real first meeting of them because none of them are going to remember it, and it's not really interfering with the other books and all that, blah, 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 makes it kind of weird, and it's just kind of like the cheap pop that doesn't actually mean anything. That feeling is so like prevalent throughout this entire issue, and it's almost just like, oh, this is just an excuse to have, oh, Diana, absolute Wonder Woman's going to use her lasso to turn into a monster at one point, or Batman, when he shows up, because we'll get to that, but he shows up and says, that's the worst bat logo I've ever seen on your chest, absolute Batman. That's not the exact dialogue, obviously, but that's I'm paraphrasing.
I appreciated it for that because I thought that was funny. Batman doesn't get to be funny that often, so
sure. I think for me though, as I was getting towards the end of this, I was very surprised that by the end they do a thing where they like whatever like dark side mind control's happening to make the absolute versions fight like he's drones. They goes away and they become their normal versions and like thank the heroes for like helping them or whatever. And I'm like, if this isn't the real first meeting between them, I don't really want them bonding, and I don't really want to be wasting like these first interactions on this thing that no one's going to goddamn remember. I don't know. I got actively annoyed at just how much of like a cheap nothing fight this entire issue was.
Yeah, they wasted the good surprise, right? Because for how much we love the Absolute Universe, having them meet our heroes, the ones that we've grown up with, should feel like this momentous occasion, and they treat it like a throwaway.
And I think it's still possible that it will feel momentous when it happens properly, when there's story build up and when it makes sense and there's actual, conversations between them and there's like lessons between them that kind of happens naturally. But see, when that eventually happens, I'm going to happily forget this ever happened. I'm going to happily forget that we had this, because it's not even like I think, oh, they're going to remember them, like, maybe Superman will remember them at least so that when they do meet the absolute versions, he's got like an inkling of how to talk to them or treat them or whatever. Yeah. Like, it doesn't even feel like that, because by the end of this issue, Superman's not even the one who's won. So it's a whole thing. Actually, another thing that pissed me off in this issue, Joker just decides, hey, can I switch sides? Can I fight in your side, Dark Side? And he's like, well, wait a minute now, right? Because the Dark Side's basically talking to him at this point through Booster Gold, right? And Joker's like, hey, I got to kill Batman with a big bang, so I'm good. And I'm like, wait a minute. I thought we were pretty like set in stone in the last like 20, 30 years that Joker doesn't want to kill Batman. It's not about killing Batman. That's actually too simplistic. He loves the dance, he loves the constant battle with Batman. So why are they treating it like, oh, he got to get the thing he wanted, he's always wanted to kill Batman? But that's not what he's always wanted. No,
him going, can I switch sides, while funny, but my Joker, the Joker that I choose to like, the Art the Clown kind of version, right? looks at this big Hulk of a Batman and goes, oh, he's gonna be fun to play with, right?
Yeah, it's another Batman to break.
Yeah,
that's what he should be saying to himself.
That's what, I got this, and he goes, can I switch sides? And I thought, oh, Joker's pulling a fast one, right? Joker's being chaotic. And like, no, then he ends up looking like this weird parademon version of Joker, and I'm like, again, they wasted the good surprise. Like, this issue was the first KO issue that actively pissed me off.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the story stuff. Yeah,
I wasn't even thinking about that, but you're right. Like, I'm imagining a world where absolute Batman gets to meet the real Joker at some point, and like just sees how chaotically evil he is, and just like his reaction to that. I mean, he might still get that, because again, I don't think he's going to remember any of this. And I hope they don't. I think if they remember this, it actively hurts their future interactions. I let's disregard this as quickly as possible, please.
Yeah. Well, no, this just feels like it's something to set up whatever new initiative that's coming forward, right? Because now I'm not even certain where it's going to go with what it sets up here by the end. So, whatever they're going to jump out of this was just a means to get there, which has been a big problem with the Snyder-Williamson events since Rebirth.
Yeah, honestly, no, you're right. Since Rebirth, I was going to correct you and say further back, but no, you actually went back to the start of the show, so you're right. Since Rebirth, like, I think Snyder, I'm loving Absolute Batman. Snyder clearly still has it in him to write a great ongoing book, which I'm having a great time with. I think his events have always suffered from being like kind of too gimmicky. It's like, and I had fun with some of them. Don't get me wrong, like Metal, Death Metal. There were some fun ideas in there, but they are built around a gimmick. Oh, there's going to be all these evil Batman, or there's going to be this, right? And then this is the same. It's like, we're going to do a fighting tournament, and everything's like just channeled into somehow making that work and have a tournament.
Yeah, well, and again, it's one of these things. It's like with. I don't want to lose our listeners, viewers right now talking about pro wrestling again, but there's a thing in pro wrestling where you have to establish rules, right? Like, if you're going to have a certain kind of match, there's got to be rules, because if you're not going to follow the rules, then what are the parameters to win?
I'll get them back here, because you didn't have to go to wrestling for this one. This is just storytelling 101. Let's take science fiction.
Yeah.
If you've got your time travel doohickey device, there has to be rules to how it works. Otherwise, people are just jumping around willy-nilly.
Right.
What part of what makes Back to the Future such a good time travel story is that it's not easy to just use it. Like, the entire plot of the movie is that it needs 1.21 gigawatts of electricity, and we can't just fire that in there. That's hard to come by, so it creates a challenge. It makes it difficult. And there's a simple rule of like, okay, we have to do this and blah blah blah, right? So you understand the goal, you understand how difficult that goal is, especially in the time period in that movie in particular, and it makes sense. Here, everything's just so, the dark side / Heart of Apocalypse just wills things to happen at every turn, so nothing matters, nothing makes sense or has any rules to it. Yeah,
no, it just does whatever. And like here with Batman showing back up, and there's the whole thing where it ties into Night Fight, which again we didn't finish reading. But Batman created a back door, and it's just like, did Batman need to show up? No. Did Joker need to flip sides? No. Like, it would have been super interesting to see Darkseid Booster and the Absolutes versus the Final Four, because you're sticking to the storytelling conventions of this is the team. Right? This is who we're following.
The funny thing is, Matt, is I think it was inevitable Batman was going to show up, because as soon as they set up this, here's your 3 absolutes and Booster Gold possessed by Darkseid, I'm like, that's a weird 4th member of this. And you look at the other side and it's like, okay, it's Wonder Woman, Superman, and then Lex Luthor and Joker. Part of me was like, this is really weird that it's not the Trinity versus the Trinity. So I actually think it was inevitable that there were somehow going to have Batman show up so that it could be Trinity vs Trinity in some form. Like, it was inevitable. They were never not going to do that for this. So they put themselves in a corner, basically. And I will admit, I did like the little flashback to them playing the board game, and like they accused Bruce of cheating, and he's like, no, I'm not cheating, but like, I'm Batman. I noticed all the imperfections in the dice, so I get the rolls I want. I'm not cheating. I'm just being Batman. I actually thought that was a funny line. In the context of playing a board game, I think it's a funny line.
Yeah, that man should never be allowed in a casino. Like no, Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is banned.
Well, luckily he doesn't need the money, so it's not like he's striving for it. If nothing else.
Yeah.
But no, it felt like a lot of stuff was just like, like, was it who throws? Is it Joker throws over Absolute Batman some kryptonite, or maybe it's Lex, and that's a gift to you, and he takes off his bat ears and puts the shards of kryptonite in where his bat ears were, just so he can like stab Superman with his head. And I'm like, this is trying too hard for a silly visual. I don't know. That felt just unnatural to me.
Absolutely. Just the way that he runs into him, and he rips the kryptonite out of Luthor's suit, right? So it's even a double on there. But yeah. And then Absolute Batman ends up, I guess he still has like Venom in his system, right? Because he ends up growing and becoming like huge.
Oh, you gave a reason to that. I just thought that was just random bollocks, to be honest. But you're right. Maybe it's the Venom.
Right. And so,
fair enough. Yeah.
And then Batman squares up on him. So there's some smaller moments that are good, but just overall, it's just, again, cheap pops. And it doesn't work as a story.
Also, I get that we're in KO and they all know that everything's going to be reset, so they've all had to kind of accept that they have to kill each other in these rounds. But it still feels weird that Batman just like quips when he seems to kill the Joker with this stabbing him through the back when his big entrance. It just kind of feels like I still feel like it's difficult for him. He's still Batman. He's got a pretty hard rule here about not killing, regardless of the situation he's in. Because he never actually got to the point where he won a round, right? He's not actually done this yet. This is the first time he's had to do this. So it just feels weird for his big entrance to be, ha, Joker's dead. Like,
bang.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Yeah, no. And just, again, a lot of the absolute characters, it seems like they're massively overpowered, which I guess is the point, and I like that Superman points that out, like they're younger and scrappier and hungrier, and that, that's what makes it tough, but they still seem to persevere, and yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff in here that it wasn't a fun read,
No.
like at least the previous issues have been like somewhat fun reads. This was like, this is Fight Month all over again.
No, I mean, I for me that deteriorated with the last issue. I didn't have that much fun with the last one. This one pissed me off more though. This one was more infuriating than the last issue. Because we waste moments like, oh, Superman noticing the weird cape that Absolute Superman has. We waste that first moment here instead of when it's going to matter, when they're going to remember each other, or whatever it is. So. Anywho, Darkseid kind of appears by the end, and like all this fighting's been fueling his return, yada yada. Because there's an extended flashback later on, after Darkseid uses Omega beams on pretty much everyone, and killed them, and Lex effectively wins, and it's going to be Lex versus Darkseid apparently, turn to the table at the end for the final issue. So we'll see how that goes. But there's an extended flashback of basically showing how he put all this in motion, where he's like talking to Saturn Girl in the future of the Absolute Universe and saying, hey, go get me a vessel and go and stoke these fires. It doesn't matter if all the heroes are trying to stop us. And I guess the one interesting thing out of this, potentially for the Absolute Universe going forward, is that he sort of shows an image of the Absolute versions of the heroes. Noticeably, right? Absolute Green Arrow and Catwoman are there. They made the cut, but for some reason Wally isn't there, which I thought was really weird. But fair enough.
As a Flash fan, I took that personal.
Like, Oliver's already dead. Like, Catwoman might actually end up being really important, but Oliver Queen is already dead, so that felt like a really weird choice to me.
Yeah, to add Martian Manhunter there, cool, great. I'm glad he's there.
That's a nice surprise, actually, that Martian Manhunter's there.
Yeah, because it's been so set out. But yeah, Catwoman and Green Arrow there. Well, Flash is not. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, but this sets up that he actually sees a bit of a threat from them, because while everything else is like you can see the past, present, and future, there's something about them where it's like a, it's like a moment in time where the future's uncertain, which implies that maybe if they actually get strong enough, they might be able to stop him. Like it's like they're a blind spot and they need to be dealt with, which is kind of cool. It's this hopeful idea that the Absolute team might be able to rise up and like save their side, their world.
Yeah, it's that idea that sure, Darkseid's an every molecule of them, but they've been fighting for so long because of that. What that is, that gives them the ultimate advantage, right? To overcome all that, and Darkseid has to get them later at post that blind spot. So the Absolute versions that come and fight our heroes are actually from later in the Absolute Universe timeline, which I thought was also interesting. It was also that they've been more imbued with whatever the dark energy and stuff is, the Omega energy, if you will.
Yeah, and then that's basically it. It just says next issue, the King Omega.
Yeah, though they also there's a piece here with Saturn Girl where Darkseid tells her, "Look into my mind," and he's like, "I would never," and she does it, and she gets like the Omega eyes, kind of, and it talks about how there was nothing, it was just beyond darkness. Everything was dark side. And that, she says, imagine not, or it's not Saturn Girl, it's the Heart of Apocalypse. Imagine not hearing those words, but feeling them within every cell. Your being knowing its truth, and that dark side would always win, and there would be nothing, right? Because if dark side is everything, then there's nothing.
Well, it's the purest form of dark side is, because it's just dark side is, but nothing else is.
Right. And so in that moment, right, she's just like, this is not good, right? She even feels that. And in that moment, she sees a different creation, and it's Time Trapper Darkseid, who's still floating around from things. Which makes me believe that it's not necessarily going to be Lex versus Darkseid. It's going to be Doomsday versus Darkseid. Because Williamson set up the idea that once the Time Trapper Doomsday dies, he's going to reset creation. So I feel like this is the back door that's set up to defeat Darkseid. It's all right there.
So the back door to how we're going to kind of like unravel all this at the end has been something that's been in Joshua Williamson's critically acclaimed Superman run.
Yep.
Work to do.
It's worth noting too that Williamson did this backup. He gets the sole credit. It's him and Zermanico. So again, there's all that. But I did like that. This backup, I feel them going through and explaining the Absolute and Darkseid's influence and him just like appearing as this floating head. I thought it was super ominous in the future. So, and even Saturn Girl, despite being of the Absolute Universe, right, and Darkseid's Legion, even she sees the threat of what happens if Darkseid prevails. Like, there's nothing but Darkseid.
The flashback at the end was inoffensive and teased a couple of interesting ideas. The main bulk of the issue, though, mostly pissed me off. And the art is solid. Obviously, the art is pretty good. Although there's a lot going on, so it doesn't have like a sort of a focused flow to it. I would say it's just kind of like, here's more fighting in every page. We're jumping around the different characters having their fights, and that's kind of it. I didn't, I didn't have this sense of like focus that gave it a structure by any means, and that's been a problem with the last few of these, is that there's been no structure. It's just been constant fighting. So
I will say the art towards the end, right, where the Omega Sanction's going through everybody, I really like the design chaos there, because you have to read it following the Omega, right? So I like that, and you're going through there, and then we get to the other page where it's Superman saying, "Is that all you got?" And he's standing over these panels, so it gives him like this larger than life, and it really set me up, because I was like, this is how it ends with Superman, right? Like, we got Superman versus Darkseid for all the marbles, and then you turn the page and Superman gets taken, right, by the Omega Sanction, and that leaves Lex. So Superman's sacrifice ends up handling the victory to Lex Luthor, which is something that I feel like, if this was something to be remembered, that's like a huge character thing. Like, even in the greatest moment, Lex only won because of Superman. But that's going to get wasted because no one's going to remember this. You know what I mean? Like, that's never going to be a character piece. So
I mean, unless the whole idea, the reason why Superman's missing post KO is because Lex, for some reason, decides to put the world back to the way it was, but the one thing he does is like take away Superman. Like, not stop him from ever existing, because he probably recognizes that Superman's existence pushed him to new heights and new limits, because he kept trying to level up to take on Superman. So he doesn't want to erase his existence from the past, but just like, but he's not here now. He's gone now. Maybe that's not what's happening. Maybe we're doing time trapper stuff with Doomsday, but like that's a possibility, I guess. So yeah, but a bit of a wet fart. It has all the problems that last issue had, with just lots of endless fighting. Doesn't have much structure, and then add in the fact that it feels like it's wasting a lot of firsts between the regular characters and the absolute characters, because one, they're being mind controlled, and two, they're not going to remember any of this anyway, most likely. So it just feels like a whole giant waste of time. But it also means that certain moments are going to feel less special potentially in the future when they do get to meet properly. So yeah, I conceptually I think this was a really bad issue. I think it's really sank the event in a big way. Not that I mean, I was never really that excited about the idea about the tournament. It always sounded like a bit of a gimmick, but maybe it'll be fun.
Yeah.
And I think now that we're 4 out of 5 in, I'm like, no, it's actually much worse than just being a gimmick. It's actually actively kind of bad. So
yeah.
Oh well. All right, Matt, what are you giving DCKO issue 4?
I'm gonna give this a straight 5.
I'm giving it a 3. Not impressed. Not happy with it at all. Yeah, I think Snyder should stay away from the big gimmicky events. He is much better at the more focused stuff that's character focused. Because for all the cool badassery stuff that's in Absolute Batman, it's always focused on telling the story of the character and the characters around them, as opposed to just the big moments.
Yeah, the last issue with the Wonder Woman crossover and the whole idea that him taking a break from work, right, and all the things that he goes through on this big thing, and when he shows back up to work, he makes them all seem mundane, right? I love all those little character pieces that happen there over the course of that one issue, and Snyder's still really good at that. It's just, like you said, these big, huge things some people just don't have a knack for.